What is up, Bandecfolks? Welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to be talking about the latest album from Arizona post-hardcore band Scary Kids Scaring Kids, Maps Written in Water. SKSK, as they are commonly abbreviated to, is a post-hardcore, very synthy band that was formed in Gilbert, Arizona in 2002. And they leaned very much into that scene kid aesthetic that was very popular at the time. The band was composed of Tyson Stevens as the lead vocalist, as well as guitarists Chad Crawford and Steve Kirby, DJ Wilson on bass, Puyan Afkari on keyboards, and drummer Peter Costa. The band self-financed the recording and distribution of their first EP, After Dark, while they were still in high school. After gaining some big local traction, the band was able to sign to Immortal Records, and they released their debut album, The City Sleeps in Flames, in 2005. An album that has really held itself in place as a strong piece of nostalgia bait for the scene kids of yesteryear. Primarily the track My Darkest Hour, which matched its playful 80s synth dance leads with very self-indulgent lyrics about being left at the altar, paired with a music video that really disarmed you to the melodrama presented in the lyrics and made the whole thing feel very self-aware. It's the classic Wayne's World Bohemian Rhapsody setup. Bunch of guys just rocking out in a car. But it was an extremely effective video, especially in a sea of similar sounding bands that always seemed to be presenting in a way where they were taking themselves way too seriously in comparison. In 2007, we got their follow-up self-titled record, a record that definitely showed some growth in the band's songwriting, with much more effort being given to the transitional qualities, and the overall album just feeling much more like a coherent piece of work rather than just a bunch of songs, having hugely popular songs on there like Holding On and Faces. The guitars were guitarier, the drums were drummier. The songs were much more polished, but that polish, along with other bands in the scene that were similar, also stretching their legs and growing as musicians, made this self-titled record, for me at least, not feel as exciting as their debut. They also found success in the Punk Goes Blank series, doing a cover of REM's Losing My Religion, and unfortunately also a cover of the posthumous Notorious Thugs, a cover that really did not age well at all. The band members taking turns rapping and changing absolutely none of the lyrics, dropping multiple hard R's through the song's runtime, while also using some pretty crazy black scents. I'm sure this band wants to greatly distance themselves from this cover. This is absolutely a bad look. Frankly, I'm shocked that anyone at the label cleared this and allowed them to put it on the record, but honestly, in the early 2000s, people sort of thought this type of thing was like funny and cute. There were at least a few popular songs basically doing this same sort of thing. Regardless, the band was extremely successful enough to land a deal with RCA Records, who was going to put out their third album. An album that never came, as the band went on an indefinite hiatus in 2009 before releasing their first major label release. So news of the band had all but stopped, except for in 2014, there was the very sad news that vocalist Tyson Stevens had passed away at the age of 29. So fast forward to 2019, and Scary Kids Scaring Kids announced their return, and they debuted their first brand new track in over 10 years, Loved Forever, in honor of Tyson, being mainly written and performed by guitarist Chad Crawford. This release was also matched with a 15th anniversary tour of their album The City Sleeps in Flames. A few years passed with some small teases that the band would be releasing new music, and in 2022, we got their third album, Out of Light, an album that came out during the post-COVID wave of MySpace-era bands suddenly returning out of nowhere. And for me, this album kind of just got lost in the shuffle for me of all the middle-aged emo men who were busting out the pink-studded belts and the checkered vans of their past. It felt like every few weeks, a band I listened to when I was a teenager was making a return. Some came back with some great material. Others left quite a bit to be desired. Out of Light was really an album I just feel totally ambiguous on. I don't love it. I don't hate it. It merely exists. The album was originally presented as almost a love letter to Tyson, so I think that kind of softened my criticisms of it. Oh yeah, and the production on this thing just sounds like dog shit. Here we are again in 2025 getting another full-length record from them where each song is going to have a different guest vocalist. And I'm kind of just left scratching my head wondering why this even exists. I'm not one of these people who says that the band should change their name and start new. They worked hard. They deserve to use the brand recognition from their music of the past. I don't think they should have to change their name or anything like that. It's just really unfortunate how by the books and generic this all is. And if you had been a fan of their first two records and then stumbled across this music, there's basically no indication that you're listening to the same band whatsoever. Scary Men Scaring Men, a more suiting name for them now that they are well into their 40s, have now back to back been consistently the least interesting thing about their own albums, taking an almost DJ Khaled sort of role in their own music. Yes, they are writing all the instrumentation, and yes, it's competently put together, but the rotating vocalists and the absolutely by the book songwriting makes this band fail to have any sort of identifiable characteristics. The guitarist is the main songwriter on these tracks, and you can barely ever hear any goddamn guitars. The vocals and the drums are mixed so loudly compared to everything else, and everything has been so compressed. The songs are so synth-focused, and they're full of fake drums. Everything is automated and quantized and just polished to the point of sounding completely robotic. The album begins with State of Repair, featuring Paul Rose, a vocalist I am not familiar with. The vocal performance sounds good enough, and I guess this is one of the heavier songs on this album, but I mean, that's never really what this band was about anyways. It feels like the band thinks they're doing something heavier than they are, and that just absolute nonsense guitar solo at the end adds zero flavor. The next track, Oblivion, is a power pop track featuring singer Cat Leon. Once again, a pretty good, if not mostly generic vocal performance. The song is super forgettable. Verse, chorus, bridge, chorus. It's giving Suno AI. Burnout features Lacey Sturm, formerly of Flyleaf, which admittedly is a pretty cool get. And even cooler of a get, they get Taylor Hanson on this track with her. Yes, that Taylor Hanson from Hanson. This track is basically a duet between the two with an overly produced instrumental that we've been coming to expect at this point. Again, I will say the vocal performances here sound pretty good, but outside of a relatively catchy hook and admittedly some very nice layering here, it's just unfortunate that they use two musical icons to create the most generic song possible, where the only appeal of the song is going to be those guest spots. The end result is a song that just sounds like a deflated Spirit Box track. So I don't really know what happened with the track Adrenaline. I haven't listened to Craig Mabbitt sing in a very long time. Maybe his voice has just changed, but this performance just sounded so phoned into me. He sounds more like someone doing a passable job singing an Escape the Fate song at karaoke. This song just tried to go for something a little heavier, a little more metalcore, but it ultimately just comes across as overproduced, overcompressed, and just uninteresting. The Aftermath was a song on here I actually enjoyed. It was one of the few songs that I actually thought was genuinely pretty decent. However, I am a huge sucker for the band Emery, and I really feel like Toby is doing a lot of the heavy lifting on this track here, giving one of the best vocal performances on this album. You can really hear some actual conviction in his vocals. Life on a Lie featuring Volumes vocalist Mike Terry is passable. I think it helps that we have heard Mike on this type of production before, and he's well equipped to write over this sort of poppy metalcore sort of thing. That being said, I do think this track has some genuinely interesting dynamics. I really like the drum work and the ambient synth layering. And then we get to All You Needed, and oh my god, what happened here? Is that really Tillian? Like, why does he sound like that? No, like, for real, what the fuck is this vocal performance? This song instrumentally sounds like it's trying to walk this tightrope between sounding like Dance Gavin Dance and kind of like Owl City, and it just ends up a big mess. Tillian has one of the most recognizable voices in all of post-hardcore, and you've taken his voice and put it through so many vocal effects that he sounds like someone is throwing a cat down a water slide. Yeah, this track is absolutely the worst one on the album. To my surprise, it's actually unbelievable how bad this turned out. The next few tracks, while not as laughably bad as this one, are just sort of forgettable for the most part. Charades featuring Monuments vocalist Andy Cizik, as well as Blackout, Rise and Fall Part 1 and 2. Just kind of forgettable songs for me. Now, the song Suspended in Air is an interesting one for me because it is a highlight. It is one of the songs that I actually like on here. This track uses the touring vocalist Albert Schweitzer on the track. Now, from a touring perspective, this is Scary Kids Scaring Kids singer. And considering he delivers on one of the better tracks of the album, it really does beg the question, why not just write an album with Albert? This track sounds a lot more pop-punky. It has a very cheery undertone. It really is more or less what I would have expected a modern Scary Kids Scaring Kids song to sound like. It's a shame. They have such a capable vocalist, yet they choose to underutilize him to this degree. This is a project that I would have been excited to root for, but ultimately, despite some novel and well-performed guest vocal performances, this album is just totally forgettable, and I really do think time is going to prove that. A big part of the appeal of this music with the pouring your heart out sort of lyrics should be to create like an emotional connection with the listener, create some sort of relatability. And I just don't believe that that's something you're going to be able to achieve with what is more or less a compilation record. A compilation record that feels like it has no meaningful direction or intentions other than to maybe make sure that they're not accidentally leaving some money on the table with the band name. Yeah, I wasn't a fan. One scary kid out of 5 scary kids. And that's it. Thank you so much for watching the video. Like the video if you liked what you saw here. If you want to see more of this, please subscribe to the channel. Leave a comment down below on some stuff you'd like us to check out. I want to give a quick thank you to our members, Ty, Aaron, and More Soya Sauce. Thank you guys so much for sticking around through all the different evolutions. Just thank you for sticking around. You guys rule. If you want to be thanked like those guys at the end of the video, hit the join button. It's only $2 a month to help us keep this thing going. Thank you so much for watching the video. Okay, bye.